Imagine waking up one morning and learning that the invisible force carrying life through your body, your blood, is being slowed, squeezed and scraped by deposits that have crept into your arteries over years. For millions of people, that is not a dramatic scene in a film. It is the quiet reality of daily life. High blood pressure and clogged arteries do not shout their presence. They whisper in fatigue, in shortness of breath walking to the mailbox, in that nagging doctor's note. We need to watch your numbers. They are steady, patient threats that, left unchecked, become the principal engines of heart attack, stroke, and premature decline. If you are between 35 and 70, the age when careers, families, and responsibilities demand everything of us, this is the moment to listen closely. The good news, and it is a fact supported by decades of clinical research and public health guidance, is that diet is not a decorative detail in this story. What you choose at breakfast and at dinner is one of the most powerful levers you possess to lower your blood pressure and to slow, and in many cases reverse, the processes that harden and narrow your arteries. Scientific reviews and clinical guidelines identify dietary patterns, not miracle pills, as cornerstone tools in preventing and managing high blood pressure. This video is not about fear. It is about clear, practical information delivered with the rigor of evidence and the compassion of someone who understands how disruptive health warnings feel when you have bills to pay and grandchildren to hug. Over the next minutes, I will show you 5 specific real foods, not fads, not supplements with inflated promises, that have consistent physiological effects on blood pressure, vascular inflammation, and the function of the cells that line your blood vessels. I will explain the science in plain language, describe how to include these foods in daily life, and set realistic expectations about what changes are likely and how long they typically take. Expect honesty. Food is not a single-shot cure, but when used intelligently and consistently, it becomes a therapeutic tool that works with your body's own repair systems. Why focus on foods rather than formulas or headlines? Because the large-scale evidence is clear. Populations that adopt heart-healthy dietary patterns experience lower rates of hypertension and fewer cardiovascular events. The dietary approaches to stop hypertension, the DASH pattern, and other similar heart-focused eating plans have repeatedly demonstrated measurable reductions in blood pressure and markers of vascular stress within weeks to months, and they remain central recommendations from clinicians and public health organizations. This is not theoretical. It is an evidence-backed strategy you can apply at the grocery store and at the table. Before we begin the list, it is important to define our terms so expectations are aligned. When I talk about ending high blood pressure and clogged arteries, I mean enabling meaningful, sustained reductions in blood pressure and improving arterial health through diet and lifestyle, outcomes that lower the risk of heart attack, stroke, and other complications. I do not mean an overnight cure, nor do I advocate stopping prescribed medications without medical supervision. The aim is empowerment, to give you evidence-based tools that complement medical care and, in many cases, reduce the need for more aggressive interventions. This first chapter is the promise, a clear, science-rooted roadmap and a commitment to speak plainly. The chapters that follow will move from explanation into action. I will present each of the 5 foods in turn, precisely how they interact with the biology of blood vessels and blood pressure, the most effective ways to consume them, and the practical, everyday recipes and habits that make these choices sustainable. No jargon, no hollow hype, only explanations that a clinician would endorse and steps you can take tomorrow. If you are ready for that practical, deeply researched guidance, if you want to know exactly which foods to prioritize, how to prepare them, and how fast you might expect to see change, turn the page with me. We will begin the list with food number 5 and work toward the most potent, evidence-supported choices. When we talk about blood pressure, cholesterol, and arteries, the words sound distant, like something that belongs in a medical textbook. But let me bring it closer to home with a story that could easily belong to any of us. Robert was 61 when he first noticed something wasn't right. A retired teacher, soft-spoken and kind, He spent his mornings reading the paper and drinking coffee with 2 spoons of sugar, as he always had. He wasn't overweight, he didn't smoke, and his doctor visits had always been fine enough. Yet one afternoon while gardening, he felt dizzy, a faintness that forced him to sit down and wait for his heartbeat to slow. His wife insisted they go to the clinic. There, after a few minutes with the cuff around his arm, the nurse frowned. "Your blood pressure is 1/72/98, she said. "That's high, dangerously high." Like so many people, Robert had no idea what that meant. His arteries, once flexible and smooth like the inside of a balloon, had gradually stiffened with years of sodium-rich foods, processed fats, and a quiet lack of movement. Inside those vessels, microscopic injuries had built up, places where cholesterol particles stuck, oxidized, and invited inflammation. The body, trying to heal, laid down more layers of plaque, and slowly, silently, the blood flow became more restricted. The heart, that tireless muscle, had to push harder. That harder push is what we call high blood pressure. For months, Robert tried to manage it with pills. They helped, but he hated the side effects, the dizziness, the fatigue, the feeling of dependence. What changed his trajectory wasn't a new medication, but a conversation with a young cardiologist who told him something simple, yet powerful. Your plate is either your best medicine or your slowest poison. That sentence struck him. He began reading, questioning, learning. He discovered that the foods he'd always loved, bacon, pastries, the salted snacks he ate during television, were not neutral indulgences. They were biochemical triggers. They increased inflammation, disrupted the delicate balance of sodium and potassium in his cells, and damaged the very lining of his arteries. The good news? The same mechanism that made food a threat could make food a cure. Within 6 months of consistent dietary change, Robert's numbers began to fall, not overnight, but steadily. And his story is not unique. All across the world, research has shown that adults who adopt natural, nutrient-rich diets based on fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and unsaturated fats experience significant drops in blood pressure and cholesterol markers. The body has an incredible capacity for self-repair, if you give it the right tools. Robert's arteries didn't become perfect, but they became more flexible. His energy returned. He began walking every morning, not because a doctor ordered him to, but because his body started asking for it. So when I speak about ending high blood pressure and clogged arteries, I'm not talking about magic. I'm talking about a biological truth that repeats itself every time someone chooses healing foods over processed ones. That is the essence of what this video is about. Reclaiming control over something that medicine alone can't fix. Your daily habits. Before we can talk about the foods that restore and protect your arteries, we must understand what's happening inside them. You can imagine your arteries as highways. They are lined with a thin, intelligent layer of cells called the endothelium, the inner surface that keeps blood flowing smoothly. When the endothelium is healthy, it releases nitric oxide, a gas molecule that tells blood vessels to relax, widening the roads so blood can move freely. But when you eat meals high in refined sugars, fried oils, or processed meats, something subtle yet dangerous begins. These foods cause oxidative stress and inflammation. The endothelium gets irritated. It starts producing less nitric oxide and becomes sticky, attracting low-density lipoproteins, LDL cholesterol, which can become oxidized. These particles lodge in the vessel wall, drawing immune cells that attempt to clean up the mess. In the process, scar tissue forms. That scar tissue, over time, is what we call plaque. Plaque doesn't just sit there, it grows. As it thickens, it narrows the passage where blood flows. Your heart must pump harder to push blood through smaller openings. That extra effort increases pressure, the same way water pressure rises in a hose when you partially block its end. This constant force against the arterial walls eventually damages them even more, setting off a vicious cycle. Inflammation causes more stiffness, and stiffness raises blood pressure further. The silent tragedy is that this process begins long before symptoms appear. You may feel perfectly fine, even while your arteries are hardening. The first signs often come as fatigue, headaches, or dizziness. And by the time you notice those, the damage is already measurable. But here lies the crucial point. The process is not irreversible. Modern studies show that when the body receives the right nutrients, the endothelium can begin to regenerate. Antioxidants neutralize the free radicals that inflame it. Certain amino acids and nitrates help it produce nitric oxide again, relaxing the vessels. Fiber helps eliminate excess cholesterol through digestion instead of letting it cling to the arteries. Potassium balances sodium levels, helping the kidneys release water and pressure. High blood pressure is not simply a symptom, it is a signal. It's your body's way of saying that the internal environment is under strain. And clogged arteries are not a permanent sentence. They are a consequence of inflammation and imbalance that can, with patience and consistency, be healed. The purpose of understanding this mechanism is empowerment. Once you see the biology clearly, every bite you take becomes a conscious act, either of healing or of harm. When you drink a sugary soda, you now know it's not just sugar, it's a spike of inflammation. When you choose a handful of nuts or a portion of greens, you're not just eating healthy, you're releasing molecules that tell your arteries to open, your pressure to drop, and your blood to flow smoothly again. In the next chapters, we'll step into the natural path of recovery. Nature has already designed foods that act as internal cleaners, artery relaxers, and protectors of your vascular system. These are not exotic or expensive. They're ordinary foods with extraordinary power. We'll start from number 5 and move toward the most potent one. But before we dive in, if you find this kind of content valuable and want to learn how to take care of your heart naturally, take a second to subscribe to the channel. It helps this information reach more people who might be struggling right now. And maybe one small click could be the beginning of someone else's healing journey too. The truth about healing high blood pressure and clogged arteries is that your body is not the enemy. It has never been. It's simply responding to what it's been given: the foods, the stress, the sleep, the environment. The same body that develops hypertension is also perfectly capable of reversing it. The same arteries that stiffen can regain flexibility. But this process doesn't start in a pharmacy. It begins in your kitchen. When you start feeding your body what it truly needs, it begins to repair itself quietly, steadily, day after day. Inside your arteries, the endothelial cells start producing nitric oxide again. The blood becomes less viscous, and inflammation markers drop. Your body is designed for regeneration. That is its natural state. But it can only do so if the building blocks for that repair are available in your diet. Nature, with its remarkable intelligence, already provided us with those building blocks: fruits, vegetables, seeds, and roots that humans have eaten for thousands of years. They hold molecules that can lower blood pressure, prevent clotting, dissolve plaques, and strengthen the heart muscle itself. Scientists today are only rediscovering what traditional medicine across cultures has always known: that food is the foundation of health, not just a companion to medicine. The foods you're about to discover in this list are not random choices. Each one has been studied, tested, and shown to create measurable improvements in vascular function and blood pressure regulation. Some work by increasing nitric oxide production, others by reducing inflammation or balancing minerals. But they all share one thing in common: they help your arteries breathe again. So let's begin. Starting with the 5th on our list. A food so common, so humble, yet so powerful that some researchers call it the artery scrubber. Garlic has been used for over 5,000 years, first as food and later as medicine. The ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Chinese all recorded its benefits for the heart and blood, and modern science has confirmed what those ancient healers already sensed. Garlic is one of nature's most powerful cardiovascular allies. When you crush or chop garlic, you activate a compound called allicin. This sulfur-based molecule is what gives garlic its strong smell and its healing properties. Once allicin enters your bloodstream, it works in several ways. First, it helps the blood vessels relax by stimulating the production of nitric oxide and hydrogen sulfide, two natural gases that tell your arteries to open wider. This reduces resistance, which means your heart doesn't have to pump as hard. Blood pressure falls naturally without forcing the system. Garlic also acts as an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory agent. It prevents LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, from oxidizing. Why is that important? Because oxidized LDL is what sticks to artery walls and begins the plaque-building process. By stopping oxidation early, garlic helps keep those arteries clear. Several studies have shown that people who consume garlic regularly can reduce both their cholesterol levels and blood pressure in as little as 8 to 12 weeks. But there's something deeper happening too. Garlic helps your blood flow more freely. It mildly thins the blood, making it less likely to form clots that can block arteries. For people at risk of stroke or heart attack, this natural anti-clotting effect is crucial. It's like installing a safety valve in your circulatory system. Now, not all garlic is equal. Raw, freshly crushed garlic is where allicin is at its peak. Once it's cooked for too long, the compound breaks down and loses potency. The best way to use it therapeutically is to crush a fresh clove, let it sit for about 10 minutes to activate the allicin, and then consume it, either raw, added to salads, or gently mixed into warm dishes after cooking. Some people prefer garlic supplements, but whole garlic is always the better choice, as it comes with additional compounds that work in synergy. Imagine what's happening inside your body after just a few weeks of regular garlic consumption. The arterial walls are less tense, the blood is less sticky, and the inflammatory load begins to drop. It's not an overnight miracle, but it is measurable. It's the kind of quiet transformation that starts small. Maybe a lower reading at your next checkup, maybe fewer headaches, and grows into something remarkable over time. The reason garlic is so effective lies in how it aligns with your body's natural chemistry. It doesn't force change, it supports it. It gives your arteries the same signals your body was meant to receive all along. And perhaps the most beautiful part? Garlic is inexpensive, accessible, and familiar. It doesn't require a prescription or a specialist to use. All it asks for is consistency, 1 or 2 cloves a day, a small act of care that compounds into healing. So the next time you prepare a meal, don't see garlic as a simple flavoring. See it as your first daily step toward cleaner arteries and lower blood pressure. Few foods capture the essence of natural medicine as beautifully as the beetroot. Beneath its rough, earthy skin lies a deep crimson pigment, a color that almost seems alive. But what truly makes beetroot extraordinary is not its appearance, it's its chemistry. This humble root is one of nature's richest sources of dietary nitrates, and those nitrates have the remarkable ability to relax your blood vessels, improve circulation, and lower blood pressure almost effortlessly. Here's how it works. When you eat beetroot, your body converts its nitrates into a molecule called nitric oxide, the same natural gas your endothelial cells produce to tell blood vessels to widen. Think of nitric oxide as a messenger of calm. It whispers to the muscles surrounding your arteries. Relax, open up, let the blood flow. As the vessels expand, blood pressure drops. The heart no longer has to fight against tight, resistant walls. Instead, it can move blood with ease. The effect is not subtle. Clinical studies have shown that consuming beetroot juice can lower systolic blood pressure, that's the top number, by an average of 4 to 10 mmHg within just a few hours. Regular consumption over days and weeks produces sustained improvements. In one study, participants who drank a single glass of beetroot juice daily for 4 weeks experienced measurable increases in blood vessel flexibility and overall circulation efficiency. But beetroot does more than just improve pressure. It enhances the quality of your blood itself. The natural pigments called betalains found in beetroot act as antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. They help neutralize free radicals that damage the endothelium, keeping the arteries smoother and more resilient. Beetroot also contains potassium and magnesium, minerals essential for balancing fluid and electrical activity in the body, both crucial to maintaining healthy blood pressure. The beautiful irony is that what modern science calls nitrates were once considered bad. Decades ago, people feared them because of their association with processed meats, where synthetic nitrates are added as preservatives. But the nitrates found naturally in plants like beetroot are entirely different. They come packaged with fiber, antioxidants, and phytonutrients that protect your system rather than harm it. Nature doesn't make mistakes in her design. Now, how do you use beetroot to gain its full benefit? The most direct way is through fresh juice, ideally one small glass, about 200 ml daily, taken in the morning on an empty stomach. For those who prefer not to juice, roasted or steamed beets retain much of their value, though the effect on nitric oxide levels is slightly reduced. You can also blend beets into smoothies with a squeeze of lemon or a piece of ginger to support digestion and enhance absorption. A small note of reassurance. Beetroot can sometimes turn your urine or stool pinkish. That's completely normal and harmless. It's just the natural pigments passing through your system, a visual sign that your body is absorbing its healing compounds. What makes beetroot fascinating is how quickly it acts. Unlike some dietary changes that take months, the effects of beets on blood flow can be measured within hours. Athletes have long used beet juice as a natural performance enhancer for this reason. It increases oxygen delivery to muscles. But for someone dealing with hypertension or arterial stiffness, this same mechanism becomes a tool of healing. It's like opening windows in a house that's been closed for too long, letting the air move again. When you include beetroot in your diet consistently, you're not just lowering a number on a blood pressure monitor. You're retraining your arteries to behave like those of a younger person, flexible, open, responsive. And that flexibility, more than any pill or prescription, is what defines a truly healthy cardiovascular system. Now that we've opened the arteries with nature's own blood relaxer, let's go one step further. Because the problem of high blood pressure is not only mechanical, it's also inflammatory. And for that, we turn to one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory warriors ever discovered in the plant kingdom. If you could hold sunlight in your hands, it might look like turmeric, a golden powder that glows even before it heals. Used in Ayurvedic medicine for more than 4,000 years, turmeric has gained modern fame for one compound in particular, curcumin. This active ingredient is one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory agents known to science, and it plays a crucial role in protecting your arteries and lowering blood pressure. Inflammation is at the root of almost every cardiovascular problem. When your arteries are inflamed, they swell and stiffen, making it harder for blood to move through. Over time, chronic inflammation damages the endothelium and accelerates plaque buildup. Turmeric interrupts this cycle at its core. Curcumin blocks the pathways that trigger inflammatory molecules like NF-κB and cytokines. In simpler terms, it tells your immune system to stand down, allowing the arterial walls to heal and regain elasticity. Research on turmeric's cardiovascular benefits is impressive. Studies show that regular intake of curcumin can improve endothelial function. That's the ability of your blood vessels to expand and contract, almost as effectively as moderate aerobic exercise. It also lowers LDL cholesterol, reduces oxidative stress, and improves circulation by making platelets less sticky, lowering the risk of clots. In people with metabolic syndrome or early signs of hypertension, turmeric supplementation has led to measurable drops in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure within a few months. But there's a secret to unlocking curcumin's full potential: absorption. On its own, curcumin doesn't dissolve well in water, meaning most of it passes through your system unused. However, when combined with black pepper, which contains piperine, its absorption increases by more than 2,000%. Similarly, consuming turmeric with a small amount of healthy fat, like olive oil or avocado, helps it pass through the intestinal wall and into your bloodstream. You don't need much to see results. Half a teaspoon of turmeric powder a day, mixed into warm water, milk, or food, can begin to shift inflammatory markers in your body. Many people enjoy it as golden milk, a soothing evening drink made from turmeric, black pepper, and a splash of almond milk. Over time, this simple habit helps calm the very inflammation that constricts your arteries. Curcumin's effects go beyond the physical. Chronic inflammation doesn't just hurt the heart, it also affects the brain. That's why turmeric has been studied for its ability to support cognitive health and prevent neurodegeneration. For people in midlife or older, this dual protection, heart and mind, makes turmeric a true guardian of longevity. What's beautiful about turmeric is how gentle yet consistent it is. It doesn't act like a drug that forces change. Instead, it slowly rewrites your body's internal chemistry, reducing the background noise of inflammation so your natural systems can function again. The result? Blood flows more freely, pressure eases, and energy begins to return. When you start combining foods like garlic, beetroot, and turmeric, the effects don't just add up, they multiply. They form a network of support for your arteries, addressing relaxation, oxidation, and inflammation all at once. And that's where true healing begins, not from a single fix, but from synergy. For decades, people were told that fat was the enemy, that eating it would clog arteries and raise blood pressure. Yet the paradox of Mediterranean cultures has always defied that belief. In countries like Greece, Italy, and southern Spain, where people drizzle olive oil on nearly everything, rates of cardiovascular disease are among the lowest in the world. Their secret? The right kind of fat, extra virgin olive oil. This oil is more than a culinary delight. It is a natural medicine. What makes it so special lies in its unique composition of monounsaturated fats, antioxidants, and polyphenols. Together, these compounds protect your arteries in three key ways. They reduce inflammation, improve endothelial function, and stabilize blood pressure. One of olive oil's primary fatty acids is oleic acid, which helps modulate blood cholesterol by lowering LDL, bad cholesterol, and maintaining HDL, good cholesterol. But the real magic comes from its polyphenols, natural plant compounds that act like microscopic shields for your blood vessels. These antioxidants neutralize free radicals that would otherwise damage the lining of arteries, preventing the cascade of stiffness and narrowing that leads to hypertension. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that individuals who consumed 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily for 6 weeks experienced significant reductions in blood pressure, comparable to those achieved through mild medication. Another study from Spain's PREDIMT trial revealed that participants on a Mediterranean diet rich in olive oil had a 30% lower risk of major cardiovascular events compared to those on a standard low-fat diet. But olive oil does something deeper than just influence numbers. It transforms the very environment within your body. By reducing inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein and protecting nitric oxide availability, olive oil allows your arteries to relax naturally. The heart pumps without strain, circulation improves, and the nervous system receives a calming signal, one that ripples through the entire body. However, not all olive oils are created equal. The key is to use extra virgin, the first cold pressing of the olive, extracted without heat or chemicals. Its flavor is slightly bitter and peppery. That's how you know it's rich in polyphenols. When you swallow and feel a little tingle in your throat, that's the compound oleocanthal, which has anti-inflammatory effects similar to ibuprofen, but without the side effects. A daily ritual of just 2 tablespoons, perhaps drizzled over salads, vegetables, or even taken raw in the morning, can become a simple yet profound act of prevention. Some people in the Mediterranean even start their day with a spoonful of olive oil mixed with a few drops of lemon juice, calling it liquid gold for the heart. With every drop, your arteries regain their flexibility. Your blood pressure begins to find its natural rhythm, and your body, once inflamed and tired, starts to feel calm again, as if it finally remembers what balance feels like. But before we conclude this journey, there's one final food that brings everything together. It's ancient, aromatic, and quietly powerful. A seed that doesn't just lower blood pressure, but harmonizes the entire cardiovascular system. Tiny, unassuming, and often overlooked flax seeds are among the most potent natural tools for lowering blood pressure ever discovered. Inside their glossy shells lies a perfect trifecta of nutrients: omega-3 fatty acids, lignans, and fiber. Each of these elements contributes to cardiovascular health in a distinct and powerful way. Let's start with the omega-3s. These essential fatty acids, particularly alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, help reduce inflammation and improve blood vessel elasticity. They also lower triglyceride levels and prevent platelets from sticking together, a key factor in reducing blood pressure and protecting against strokes. In essence, they turn your blood into a smoother, gentler river, flowing without turbulence. Then come the lignans, plant compounds that behave like gentle hormones and antioxidants. They help balance cortisol, the body's main stress hormone, which plays a direct role in raising blood pressure during chronic stress. By stabilizing cortisol levels, flaxseed indirectly reduces the tension in your arteries. And finally, the fiber, one of the most underappreciated tools for blood pressure management. Flaxseed's soluble fiber binds to excess cholesterol in the digestive tract and helps eliminate it naturally. It also slows digestion, stabilizing blood sugar levels, which prevents the insulin spikes that often contribute to hypertension. Scientific evidence supports these effects. A study published in Hypertension, the Journal of the American Heart Association, found that participants who consumed 30 grams, about 4 tablespoons, of ground flaxseed daily for 6 months saw an average reduction of 10 mmHg in systolic pressure and 7 mmHg in diastolic pressure. That's a drop so significant it rivals prescription medication without side effects. The key, however, is that flaxseed must be ground. Whole seeds often pass through your digestive system intact, meaning your body never accesses their nutrients. You can easily grind them at home in a coffee grinder and add the powder to smoothies, yogurts, soups, or salads. The flavor is mild and nutty, making it a versatile addition to any meal. Within weeks of daily use, many people report feeling lighter, calmer, and more energized. The reason is simple. As blood pressure normalizes, oxygen and nutrients begin to reach tissues more efficiently. The heart works with less strain, and the brain receives a steadier flow of blood, which translates into clearer thinking and deeper rest. What's beautiful about flaxseed is that it doesn't just treat high blood pressure. It teaches your body how to regulate it naturally. It supports hormonal balance, reduces stress responses, and improves the flexibility of blood vessels, the 3 pillars of cardiovascular resilience. Throughout this journey, we've traveled through the world of natural foods, from the quiet strength of garlic to the golden calm of turmeric, from the vibrancy of beets to the purity of olive oil and the humble wisdom of flaxseed. Each one carries within it a fragment of nature's intelligence, a molecular code that restores balance to the human body. Lowering blood pressure is not about fighting your body. It's about listening to it. Hypertension is not a random malfunction. It's a message, a sign that the system is under strain, that the arteries have lost their rhythm. Nature, in her subtle brilliance, provides the exact tools to restore that rhythm. Foods that relax, heal, and nourish from the inside out. If you integrate these 5 foods into your daily life, something remarkable happens. Within weeks, your numbers begin to change. But beyond the numbers, you begin to feel the difference. Calmer mornings, steadier energy, deeper sleep, and a sense of lightness you may not have felt in years. The true goal is not merely to avoid disease, but to reclaim vitality. The power to do that lies not in a bottle, but in the kitchen, in the small, conscious choices you make every day. So the next time you drizzle olive oil over your salad, crush a clove of garlic, or blend beets into your morning smoothie, remember, you're not just eating, you're engaging in an act of healing, one that reconnects you to the ancient wisdom written in the language of plants. Because nature doesn't heal by force, she heals by harmony. And when you return to her rhythm, your blood pressure and your life will follow.